Hello, kia ora, g'day, I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast through the next week ahead. And we've got an extra big picture satellite map for you today because basically there is very little happening around a large portion of Australia other than the southeast, where more showers, isolated thunderstorms and windy conditions are moving through, mostly for Tasmania, but also for some parts of Victoria as well. Further to the north, around Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, you're seeing all the usual thunderstorms. But further north of that, we've got two typhoons. Ragasa, that's the main one, passing through or near Hong Kong, right as we recorded this on Wednesday. That's going to be pushing through across today and tonight through mainland China. And then east of the Philippines, a new formed typhoon, and that is likely to bring in some wind and rain to the Philippines as we go in towards the weekend, and might head off towards Hainan and Vietnam as we kick off next week. So a few other things going on outside of Australia, but for Australia at the moment, not too much going on. So there is the big high. That is the reason why it's fairly calm in many places. But this is the wind map showing windy westerlies continuing on around Tasmania, Bass Strait. There's also a bit of a southeasterly breeze on the outer edges of that high for coastal parts of Queensland. And then as you come into the Northern Territory, Western Australia, that same southeast to easterly breeze continues, just maybe a little bit gusty towards the end of today. Nothing problematic really, but just letting you know it's a little bit windy through the interior. Let's get into the forecast properly. So here we are on Thursday going into the afternoon. Sorry, Tasmania, you're disconnected from the rest of the country, which I know a lot of you are proud of. But your weather at the moment is the reason why I'm saying that. The polar airflow comes right up to Bass Strait. Means wintry weather for you. Now, as I said yesterday, if it makes you feel any better, your brothers and sisters over in the South Island of New Zealand are in the same wintry boat as you are, with the colder airflow coming on through. But further to the north, coming into the Tasman Sea and right across a large portion of Australia, high pressure is the main feature. And this other one out here to the west, it's kind of flirting with Perth and other parts of the southwest of Western Australia. And because it's not properly over the top of you, keeps driving in or starts to drive in a southerly flow, whether it's southwest, southerly or southeasterly. That's what's producing a few showers. That's really about it. There is not much to talk about for the whole left-hand side of Australia from the halfway mark. Even the eastern side, there isn't really a lot going on, certainly not in the tropics. It's very quiet. But as you come further down into New South Wales, windier westerlies are starting to kick in, especially around kind of the Sydney area inland towards the Blue Mountains. May not be very windy in Sydney itself overall, but those gusty conditions are coming in over the hills. Depends on where the wind kind of bounces as it comes down the other side as to how much of Sydney will feel those winds. And the further south you go, the windier it gets. Positive news for Tasmania. As the polar line drops south of you, it's shorts and t-shirts weather for you on Friday by maybe half a degree warmer. Maybe a degree if you're lucky. Being a little bit sarcastic, obviously. On Friday, the windy weather carries on, as I just mentioned. So this is the area here in the purple or darker shading around the mountains, around the Great Dividing Range. This is right at the lower end of even being problematic. So hopefully there aren't really any issues, but it just gets up to that 90, 100 kilometre an hour gust range, and that can break a few branches. Windy through Bass Strait, but not really too problematic there. Not many branches to worry about out at sea to fall over, but some of the islands could be pretty windy, but it's not into that severe gale risk. But here's we go into Saturday, the severe gale risk, the damaging winds are more likely. That's where you're getting gusts over 90, 100 kilometres an hour. Most of that energy is south of Tasmania, but it's going to be moving through as we go across Saturday, and that windy weather brushes some of the hillier areas further into the mainland. So let's have a look at Saturday, and the polar boundary returns to most of Tasmania, so your temperatures drop again, and you've got more of those west coast showers, some a bit squally. There's a storm just south of you, that's why you're getting that. Further into Victoria, not much really happening, a few showers around, nothing too significant really in there. You might get a thunderstorm, but apart from that, it's not really going to add up to very much. High pressure still trying to move into southern parts of Western Australia, and while it's not really producing a lot of interest, we've got these low pressure zones, about 4 of them, all up in the tropical parts of Australia, from Western Australia, Northern Territory and into Queensland. Now, as we go through the next few weeks, those low pressure areas should sink further southwards, encouraging those thunderstorms and downpours further to the north to start to come down. But for now, apart from a few isolated showers around Darwin, maybe Catherine, there's really not a lot of energy going on up there. And they continue through into Sunday as well. Very isolated and mostly dry up in the tropics at the moment. There may be a bit more cloud for coastal parts of Queensland on Sunday. That's due to a northeasterly breeze that is trying to move in. Most of the rain is offshore, but it's close enough to drive in cloud. The next main feature, the polar airflow around Tasmania, is that cold southerly and southwesterly comes on through. Now, it's not overly windy in Victoria, but this next area developing around the Great Australian Bight, that is the area to keep an eye on, because that might spark in some energy going into next week. Behind all that, the high still sitting there, still teasing Western Australia, and that's why you've got showers and southerly winds continuing on for you. So let's go into next week. The rain around Queensland heavy offshore, but appears to be staying offshore. Very little in the way of weather life for the top half of Australia as we go into Monday. Not a lot going on in Western Australia. A bit of a southeasterly wind, maybe a little breezy in some areas. But as you go into South Australia, this low pressure zone is sparking a bit of energy. And see the dark blue line? That's just like the polar line that I highlight. I haven't highlighted this one because don't really need to, but it's a circle of dark blue, and that shows that the polar air is high up in the atmosphere. So what that does is when you get these showers forming, some of those heavy and building up, goes up into that cold airflow, that cold air that's stuck aloft, and that can bring in thunderstorms and hail showers and squally conditions. Now obviously that is mostly at sea here on Monday, but we jump to Tuesday, and now you've got a chance of getting some heavier downpours coming through. The colour shading, it's not locked in this far out, but you are talking about 40 or 50 millimetres in the southeast corner of South Australia, other parts of Victoria and northern parts of Tasmania. There's also a weak area of low pressure coming in around the ACT and New South Wales. That drives in a windy nor'wester. So I didn't really mention it, but there are a few showers for coastal New South Wales on Monday and a few more here on Tuesday. Otherwise dry in most other places. But yeah, we'll be watching this one here in the next couple of days as we update it for you. I've had a few people from Victoria saying the rain you've had in recent months has been good, but not enough for some of you. Others don't want it to be raining at this time of the year. Let me know in the comments which category you're in. Here is Wednesday's next setup. So it does move through kind of quickly, but the polar boundary, see the circle again, that's that high up in the atmosphere, this area of very cold air stuck up there. That means that this zone has a high chance of getting some thunderstorms or at least just some squally heavy downpours. Southerly winds and showers into Adelaide and surrounding areas. It won't be very much. Don't bank on it being enough to water the garden, because that is looking like less than a millimetre for Adelaide itself. But we do see a few isolated showers coming in now, maybe a few thunderstorms here and there, coastal cloud and showers. Not very much for Queensland, and the low pressure zone still sitting up here to the north, and we've got a few thunderstorms that might develop around the top end as we go through Wednesday. So finally, our rainfall map, that shows the whole next 7 days ahead. And look, there is very little in the way of rain in the top end. Not a lot of rain in lower parts of southern parts of the Northern Territory. Those are the showers I just showed you on that last map. So if that doesn't happen on that one day next week, you can delete that. But we do see some wet weather building here in the southeast corner, 100 millimetres on the western side of Tasmania around Queenstown, and just here in the border between South Australia and Victoria, maybe some heavy downpours coming through from that low next week. But otherwise, very dry across Australia for the next week ahead. That's all from me for today. We've got another typhoon update. It's already out about Ragasa, which is around Hong Kong, Macau, and heading towards mainland China as we go through Wednesday. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow.